G'day folks, it's the Meeple Monkey here again with a first for the channel. We're going to be doing a review. You may have been following along as I've been covering the G.I. Joe Operation Cobra Game Found campaign by OC Games. And I thought since there doesn't seem to be a lot of coverage of the game, and people have been asking for others' thoughts, those people who have played the Tabletop Simulator mod, they've been asking for thoughts about this game, and so I thought, well, I've played the game, so maybe I can give a little bit of a review, for whatever that is worth, sort of thing. So I don't consider myself a reviewer. I don't know if I'll be doing many reviews in future, but I thought it might be helpful for folks trying to decide whether or not to back this game, to see a bit of a review and hear about sort of my experiences and how I feel about the game. For folks who want to know more as well, I recommend checking out on my playthroughs. I've got 4 playthroughs, and at the end of those videos, if you want to skip to the impressions parts, all the folks who joined us, Dave and Andrew and Derek and Nelson, they all gave their thoughts on the game as well, so that's another place where you can get some different opinions as well. So I'm Dan, I'm the Meeple Monkey, so the other thing about this is this is going to be my opinions based on just playing the base game using the quick start rules on the Tabletop Simulator. I can't really give a review of anything else or all the additional stuff that's coming with the campaign because I haven't played with that stuff yet. But I'll give my sort of, I guess, brief thoughts about that sort of stuff at the end of the video as well. So I thought for this review format, I'm not, like I said, I'm not much of a reviewer. I haven't really done this before, but I was trying to think, what are the things, I guess, that would be important to me, or what are the things that stand out to me again about this game as well. And I've kind of combined them into sort of 2 rough areas. The first one is, the fun factor of the game. How fun is it? And again, I've sort of split that up into like the gameplay and just the feel and the aesthetic of it as well. And then I thought, and the other sort of major component to me is like the staying power of this game. Like, is it going to stay in my collection if I end up getting this? And I sort of broke that down into, like, I guess, variety, and like just the fiddliness or logistics, the reality of getting this game out and playing it, sort of thing. So those are the different areas I thought I'd sort of speak on, and again, having only played the Tabletop Simulator modes, some of those things we'll have to sort of extrapolate what it might be like and that sort of thing as well, but we'll see how we go. And then at the end of the video, I'll give a bit of a rating or a ranking of my sum up my thoughts of the game. So let's start with the fun factor side of things first, and we'll talk about gameplay. And again, I thought I'd break these up into pros and cons. So gameplay, for me, there's a lot of pros, and first and foremost, I love the characters, the way that the characters in this game feel. I love their abilities. I like the balance between having some stats for skill checks and things like that, and then having these abilities. And I like how they interact with the I guess, number of actions or the type of actions you can do as a hero in this game. And I really like how each of the characters' abilities worked, and they were a lot of fun to pull off, and I really liked how the different abilities of the different characters were able to combo off each other, and you were able to sort of string together some turns where different characters were sort of leapfrogging each other in terms of doing actions, and that was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. The dice system is something that I think is an iteration of maybe the Imperial Assault dice system. So if you're familiar with that, you sort of have these dice that give you different numbers of hits and different numbers of bonus symbols that can translate to extra powers and extra abilities and things like that as well. I was not really, I never really found myself warming to that similar system in Descent. I think 2nd edition, that's another dungeon crawl that this seems to sort of be a succession of, sort of thing, in terms of style of game, and then followed by Imperial Assault. But in this particular game, and I really wish I'd played Imperial Assault now too, because it sounds like this is very similar to that. In this particular game, it just works for me. Something about the way they've balanced the abilities and the weapons and this and that, but the dice rolling seems like fun stuff's happening every turn. I love that you have variable ranges. You're never really sure if your gunfire is going to be in range or if your characters are going to be safe or able to get the bad guys and stuff, because there's this variable range thing controlled by the dice system. I like the variable output. I like how the defenses and the cover sort of work in with that as well. So the dice all together come in a nice package, and I really enjoy that. And sort of following on from that, the skill systems, the way the dice system use these skill checks, and you have these different stats for skill checks, again giving a different feel and flavour for each of the characters as well, was a lot of fun. And I like how that plays into the rest system as well. I like the resting system uses different types of skill checks depending if you're trying to sort of recover some health, or to recover, get your wind back, get your breath back and be able to launch into sort of more heroic actions and that sort of thing as well. Which brings us to the heroic resolve system, which I think is sort of like the, I forget what it was called in Descent, but there was like you spent sort of energy or perspiration or something like that, and you were able to sort of boost your turns and sort of squeak a little bit of extra actions out of your turn with your heroes. And I really like the system in this one, where I like the number of different types of activities you can do. I like that you can go from moving orthogonally to moving diagonally. I like that you can also combo that together with giving yourself an extra couple of movement points in a movement. I like that you can spend heroic resolve to allow yourself to do 2 of the same action type in a turn, where normally you can only do each action sort of like can only be done once a turn sort of thing. I like all those different things that you can do with the heroic resolve, and I really like how some of the characters' abilities tie into that heroic resolve system and give you abilities to sort of keep stringing things together. I really think that's really cool. And this is one I think I'm not necessarily in alignment with a lot of other people that I played with, but I really enjoyed the behavior system. I liked the card flipping. I didn't mind that, I didn't think it was too onerous or over the top sort of thing, but I liked that those AI decks gave each of the individual troopers their own sort of personalities and stories. I liked the story building and the storytelling that created. I know that it creates it creates a little bit of a chaotic system, and maybe it's not the most intuitive or it's not the most streamlined, but I enjoyed it. I liked that you never knew if when you kicked down the door the Cobra trooper was going to go diving under the bed, or if he was going to sort of like come out swinging. That sort of, I enjoyed that, and I thought that the storytelling and the fun that created outweighed the having to flip a card for each trooper and that sort of thing. But that was my experience of that. I really liked the variety of the different things that they would do, either seeking cover or racing forward to attack or getting an extra couple of attacks. And I liked that the different decks were told the story of that type of trooper as well. So some were more inspirational type of troopers, and some were good at doing healing and would heal their comrades and that sort of thing as well. I liked that some would do disorientation type effects on the Joe forces. I thought that was a fun thing too. I like how those decks tell those stories. I like the line of sight and the cover mechanisms. I'm someone who tends to sort of I don't really grok those line of sight rules and stuff in a lot of games anyway. I felt this was one that I could generally follow, and that if I needed to just sort of make a few fudging calls when I'm playing this myself, which I'll primarily probably be playing solo, it was easy enough and simple enough that I could sort of pretty much be playing within the rules, even if I make a mistake here or there. It was a lot of fun. I liked the nuance of it wasn't necessarily the most realistic, but I liked the idea that the way that the line of sight was drawn, it seems to be, if I'm getting this right, that you could sort of have a trooper sort of at a doorway, and they have line of sight in sort of around the corner of that doorway into the room, and they could sort of peek out and take some shots, whereas the forces on the inside, depending on what sort of shallow angle they're at sort of thing, they could be in the room and not be able to see that same trooper behind the doorway sort of thing. So that kind of created a fun sort of like movie in my mind of like popping out, taking a shot, but then ducking back in and being safe from the room of troopers and that sort of thing. So that was a lot of fun. I liked the way that sort of played out, and I think the stealth system was fun as well. I like that. I like that you can have scenarios that don't really feature the stealth rules that much, and you can have scenarios that really are tailored around that, and even sort of start all of your Joes hidden, so that it sort of definitely is telling you, okay, this is a stealth heavy sort of mission. And I liked that, even though we didn't sort of use it a lot, I liked that certain characters like Snake Eyes can bring stealth into the game, even when, you know, normally the other troopers aren't able to access that sort of skill as an ability. Some troopers can do that, and you can use things like smoke bombs and things like that to create places where hiding can happen, even when, you know, the scenario might not always sort of you know, normally be set up for that. So I think that's pretty fun, and I'm looking forward to trying that out. I really like the little story moments. Again, this is a big thing to me. I like when I'm playing these games to really feel like I'm immersed in the action, and I liked when Snake Eyes was, you know, diving into under tables and into trash cans and things to you know, maintain his hidden status and stuff. That was a lot of fun. I also really liked the Cobra and Joe advantage system. This is another one where I think it's a bit controversial, polarizing. Some people really don't like the swinginess of it and don't think it tells a story that makes sense. You know, there should be some sort of like agency that you have, or something that you are able to achieve. You need to have some sort of goal you're going for, and if you're successful in that, that empowers your troops, and you know, that, or you know, that sort of motivates your troops and that sort of thing. And I can see, you know, where they're coming from with that, but I really enjoyed the fun of like just the tension. It's like, you know, those games where you're drawing from an enemy deck to see what they do to you on the enemy turn, sort of thing, and I just like that sort of tension of like, what's going to happen when you flip the card. And in this case, I like that tension of like flipping the coin, the token, to see if the Joes have the momentum, or if they get caught flat-footed and the Cobra forces get their momentum. I really thought that was cool, and I liked how that gave them another ability, or you know, another opportunity to give characters abilities, but that weren't always going to be present, sort of thing. And that was fun. Like when picking your Joes, like that's a really cool ability, but I'm not always going to be able to rely on that, sort of thing. So that was fun as well. And I like how the Cobra troopers each have their own version of that special ability as well, which can be quite scary if they get the ascendancy. And I want to point out as well with the gameplay that I'm enjoying the difficulty level as well. The difficulty for the first two missions, especially if you've seen gameplay videos of those first two missions, that might not seem very difficult, but you know, I think they're supposed to be introductory type missions. But B, I can tell you from experience, I've definitely played many games off camera where things did not go well, and the Joes, you know, were hard up against it, or even lost, and you know, we lost Joes in here and there. So the difficulty, I think, is pitched pretty well, and I like that. You know, the health can go up and down pretty quickly, but I like that also that rest system is pretty flexible, and you can, you know, if you've got the capacities, if someone else can, you know, carry the weight of the mission, you've got some time to sort of do a couple of rest actions and things like that, and top up your health, or top up your heroic resolve and that sort of thing. And the swing of the Joe Cobra advantage system, you know, can help sort of tilt one thing one way and the other and that sort of thing as well, and give you a reprieve, you know, when you weren't expecting it and that sort of stuff as well. So the difficulty level, I think, is fun. It's sort of like, and it creates like you never really know whether you're going to be going well or not, sort of thing. Like you could feel like you're doing really well, and things could suddenly take a turn, and vice versa. So yeah, that's another great thing I like about the gameplay. I guess cons. The only you know, in the gameplay sense, you can probably tell I'm really enjoying the gameplay. I really, it's the thing that stands out head and shoulders for me about this game. I really enjoyed it, and I was surprised to enjoy it again. Coming from playing Descent and not really enjoying that to its full potential, I don't think I really am surprised how much I'm enjoying this game. And so cons, for me, there's not a lot of cons here, but I would say I'm tending to play a lot more sort of like easier games. I'm not as sort of driven towards playing heavier games and more complex games and that sort of thing, and that's across all gaming at the moment. So with dungeon crawls, I'm really enjoying like games like Cthulhu Death May Die and Marvel Zombies. You know, I don't know if you'd consider that a dungeon crawl, but it's kind of adjacent, I think, and I'm really enjoying those sorts of games at the moment. So for me, I guess one thing I would say that's a con with this game is that for where my tastes are aligning at the moment, it's not as quick and snappy as that. It's pretty simple. It's not, you know, it's not super complex. Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the easier dungeon crawl style games to sort of like, you know, just work out what's going on and manipulate and that sort of thing. But it's not as snappy and fast and just free flowing and tons of dice rolling all over the place and stuff as those games. So that's probably the one sort of con. It's not quite as sort of explosive and snappy as something like that. The next part of the fun factor, I guess, is the theme, the big, you know, the aesthetics, the look of it all, and I think here, you know, if we start with the pros, the absolute number one thing that I love about this game that stands out to me above all other things, theme-wise and look-wise, are the file cards. I love. It's a silly little thing and a small little thing, but I love that the G.I. Joe sort of player cards that tell you all your stats and all that sort of stuff, done in the style of those file cards you used to get on the back of the G.I. Joe packets and that sort of thing, the blister packs, and yeah, just, you know, it's really, it's hits that nostalgia which this whole campaign kind of is, you know, capitalizing on. But what a genius way to show your character profiles and abilities. It's just a really, really fun thing. I like the general brightness and aesthetic of the game in general. I like the brightness of the tiles and the little details on the tiles. Again, going back to, you know, that storytelling, I love that they've got little details like, you know, the table in the sort of Cobra camp in the jungle where there's like playing cards scattered around where the, you know, where the Cobra forces were playing poker just before the Joes attacked and all that sort of thing. I like the little trash cans that you can hide in, and all those little details were a lot of fun, and having little Radio Shack rooms that you can bust into and you know, try and take out the radio operator. I like all the little details in the storytelling of the actual what's on the boards. I think that's a lot of fun, and it helps me feel again like I'm in that Joe world. It like the aesthetics of the board, they remind me of those comics when I'm reading where they're in Rio Lindo and all those sort of fictional places, and the Cobra bases, covert bases, and, you know, research stations and things like that. These places look like those, and they capture that feel for me, and I really feel like I'm in the Joe world when I'm playing. The art style in general, like this, so the, you know, I guess not just the graphics on the boards, but like the art style in general. I would say, you know, from my memories, because I'm sort of thinking back when I was a kid, collecting the toys, and then sort of a teenager sort of reading the comics and that sort of thing. Some of the look is not as familiar to me, but it seems to, the way they've done it, and I guess the art they're using, which is I think Hasbro sort of licensed art, is it's still got that modern aspect to a lot of it, but it's reminiscent enough for me of the old school stuff and the classic stuff that I still really enjoy it. And I think they've sort of leaned into things like the file cards and things like that as well to help sort of like marry those things together, sort of thing. So I generally like the look of it. I think it reminds me enough of my memories of the Joe stuff that I really like it. So and the models for the most part are really great. You know, especially the Joes. I really like the Joes, and the villains. I think they're, you know, I know there's a couple of villains here or there that folks are expressing, I think, are a bit silly poses or maybe a bit boring here or there, but I quite like them all. I think they're all really cool, and I like that they've given us Snake Eyes. I thought he looked really cool with the two swords as well, but I like that they've given us Snake Eyes with the Uzi option as well as a campaign type of thing. But just know that that's not, I think, in the base game if you were just to get the base game by itself. Cons, I think, in this area for the theme and that sort of thing would be maybe like in terms of the models, that the troopers are maybe just sort of okay, like the Cobra troopers. I quite like the Vipers, they look pretty good, but the fact that they're all kind of in the same pose and just there's maybe yeah, not as much interesting sort ofness about them just because they're very sort of static and that sort of thing. I think that's maybe a little bit of a con there. It's probably sort of a middling sort of thing there. Probably the only other con I would say, look-wise and feel-wise, is the tokens probably look a little bit sort of maybe not the most exciting or not the most vibrant sort of thing. So I think the tokens look a little bit, maybe a little bit cheap, a little bit sort of just boring in their graphic design, I think, is probably the only thing I would say there. Let's talk about the next major category, which is that staying power. I guess, replayability. Do I think this is going to, stand the test of time in my collection? And so if we start with variety, the pros I would say here, every Joe feels different. So like Roadblock and Duke, having played them all now, they all feel really different when you play them, and their abilities really sort of tell their character and make you feel like you're playing a different, you've got a different goal in mind, you're doing a different thing, you have to go about the mission in a different way depending on the Joe that you pick. And adding on to that and sort of like expanding it, or like I guess exponentially making that greater, is that loadout system. I really like the weapon system where you essentially have a whole deck of like generic equipment that you can take from. You also have your G.I. Joe like character decks that, Duke's own deck and Scarlet's own deck. I like that you can pick combinations of 2 of those. You always have to take, I think, at least 1 weapon card, but then you've got your choice of other things, and sometimes they're not weapons, they're like skills or abilities, things like that as well. But I like how different the characters felt when playing that, like going in and having I think Scarlet with like a explosive arrows or something for her crossbow, or having Duke go in with a machine gun as opposed to a pistol, or this or that. Like, it made the characters feel really different and play differently, on top of like how they play differently with their abilities, and yeah, from game to game to game. And so you've got this big deck of equipment that you can use, plus the Joe cards, plus the Joes have their own like advancement decks as well, where they get different weapons and things like that. So it feels like there's lots of different combinations you can try, even within one character. Snake Eyes, taking him with ninja stars or his wolf or a sword or a machine gun or a rocket launcher or whatever it might be, is going to make him feel different. And I like how much variety that brings. So that was really cool. And I like that there's lots of villains. It seems like in the core set there's quite a lot of villains. I wasn't expecting this many, so that was quite good. And I can't speak for the missions themselves, because I haven't played a lot of the missions. I've only played like the 2 of them, but I think there are about 12 in that core set. So just the fact that there are 12 there, that's some variety. I feel like that's good variety in a game system like this. And I like the difference. I like how different the 2 missions that I have played felt. So I'm hoping that the different missions, being 12 of them, that's going to provide even more variety. So, but I don't know if I can really speak too much to that yet, having not played all those other missions, but the fact that there's 12 is good. Now, in terms of the leveling, I think what I really like is that the Joes feel like really fun characters from the get-go. You don't have to play a whole bunch of games. You don't have to play like 10 games before you actually are having fun using Roadblock or whatever. Like, you come with, Roadblock is Roadblock from the get-go, and he feels like Roadblock, and he's powerful, and he has Roadblock turns, from your very first game with him. And I really like that. I like that. For me, in terms of replayability, is this going to last in my thingy? I don't tend to sort of like play through campaign sides of things, and I probably should talk about this as well. There's a campaign mode, and there's also like you can play all the missions in the campaign just as standalone games if you want to, and that's great for me. That ability that I can just play any mission I want. I don't have to feel like, oh well, I don't get to play any of the fun stuff until like I play through all this other stuff in the meantime. For me, that creates that last ability. It's not so much variety that is creating that last ability. It's the fact that I can pick and choose anything at any time. So that aspect of variety I think I really like. And then going back to the characters, I like that I don't have to wait. I don't have to feel like I'm locked into playing lots and lots of this game before I can I just pull this off the shelf and have fun with Roadblock, or do I have to like pull this off the shelf for and commit to it for weeks and weeks and weeks before he feels good. So yeah, that's my feeling on the variety of the game. Having a look at the cons in terms of variety, there's some big ones here. So, and that's that there's only 4 characters in that game, like in the base game. So, and that's what I'm reviewing. So, a dungeon crawl game where there's only the 4 characters for me is a pretty small amount of characters. And yes, they all feel very different, and yes, they have lots of different loadout cards. So that's great. But the fact that there's only 4 I'm a bit disappointed in that. I would have expected more in the base set. At least 6 to 8 characters. I don't know. Maybe I'm being greedy there, but that's kind of what I was expecting. And on top of that, the troopers, like the bad guys, the variety of bad guys. I think there are only I want to say, could be getting this wrong, but I think there's only about 3 different types of troopers. And there's a lot of villains, that's great, but the troopers, there's not a lot of variety. So that was a bit disappointing. Even though it's not as big a deal for me, going back to that point I mentioned about the leveling system, the leveling is itself not very robust. So if you're looking for excitement in the leveling side of things, there's only a small deck of cards of these little equipment or powers and things that you can sort of like earn through leveling up. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of, you come basically exciting already, but there's not much room to grow and become like way more exciting, if that makes sense. So that's my sort of idea, or that's my feeling around the lack of variety there. I think that sort of limits things a little bit. And then logistics, or just how easy is it to get this game to the table, how easy is it to play, how much of a hassle is it, sort of thing. So I think one thing, going back to the leveling, because there's not a lot of leveling, there's not a lot of fiddliness and worrying about and forgetting where your character was at when you last played, and keeping track of where they were, where they were at, how many skills and things they developed, all that sort of stuff. There's not a lot of craziness going on there, so that's a pro. But I guess the logistics side of things, for the most part here, I'm going to sort of come in at some cons here. Not massive things, I guess, for me, but they are still cons, and I can see these maybe being bigger for other people. That's loads of tokens, lots and lots of tokens, double side tokens too, so you're sort of like, which one is this, which one is that sort of thing, getting them mixed up, and lots of cards. As much as I liked that card system, it does create, there's going to be a lot of space taken up by these card decks and that sort of thing as well. So just having lots of little decks out all over the place and lots of tokens just sort of makes it sort of fiddly, and I can see that sort of like being a big part of setup and that sort of thing. But maybe there'd be some storage solution or something like that. But at the moment, that's just something that I can see being a little bit of a barrier to thinking, oh, am I just I'm gonna pull this out and just have a quick, nice evening playing this game, or am I going to sort of feel like it's a bit of work? So yeah, that's the last con there. So those are my sort of thoughts overall around those areas, and I am hesitant to give a ranking, give a rating, as part of this review, because you guys, this is my very first review. You guys don't know me from a bar of soap in terms of that sort of stuff, and so what does my score mean, in the grand scheme of things? But for the sake of giving you a score, because some people will just be like, yes, give us a score, I will say this for me comes in at around about an 8 out of 10. I really enjoy the game, and that's the main thing for me, is I'm excited to play it. I still get excited thinking about playing it. I've enjoyed all the gameplay I've played, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's a big one for me. So there you go. That's my score, is an 8 out of 10. Now, however, what I thought would be maybe more useful would be to give a ranking, and so I thought what I would do is, it might be more valuable for you, you know, if you're thinking, you know, okay, all of this is great, you know, but, you know, what does it really mean? You know, how good do you think this game is? I thought if I ranked this amongst my collection of other dungeon crawlers for other like games, that might give you a sense for, you know, what I'm truly feeling about it, and, you know, how you might sort of feel about it as well, because you might be able to make some judgments based off these other games, or at least you can see what my tastes are at the moment with those games. So if you've seen my previous video on dungeon crawls, I sort of ranked the games in my collection, kind of made it like a top 8 or something like that, and I talked a little bit about them there. But my tastes, you know, are always changing, that sort of thing, and so that ranking has actually sort of changed in the interval. So I thought I should mention that. So you know, the top tier will always be that my top sort of dungeon crawl is old school Warhammer Quest, but that's not really a very good indicator of anything at the moment, because I never play it, don't have an opportunity to play it, but it's up there in my echelon. It's kind of like transcended to, you know, godlike status sort of thing. So you know, that's my very top sort of thing. That's my epitome of what a dungeon crawl, a good dungeon crawl is, sort of thing. But of course, like, what am I actually playing these days, and what have I got in my collection? So you might have seen that I had games like Gloomhaven and Madara in my collection. I had, and so those have sort of, maybe at least Gloomhaven has sort of dropped a little bit, because what I'm playing a lot more these days are quick fun games, and I mentioned Cthulhu Death May Die and Marvel Zombies. So those are my top games. I'd probably say Marvel Zombies is the game that I'm enjoying the most in terms of dungeon crawl style games, and just underneath that, you know, on any given day it could be back and forth, but just underneath that is Cthulhu Death May Die. I've also had games like Tidal Blades 2 and Massive Darkness 2 come into my collection as well, and I've enjoyed them. And I think where I'm sort of settling at would be that Gloomhaven, because it's, you know, like I'm saying, I'm playing simpler games and things, it's too crunchy for me, so I have, it's sort of like lowered in my rankings, and I would probably say I'd put maybe Madara and Massive Darkness 2 somewhere higher than that. I would probably put Tidal Blades 2 maybe around about where Gloomhaven is. But so where I'm going to be coming at with G.I. Joe is, I would probably put G.I. Joe underneath Marvel Zombies and Cthulhu Death May Die, but I would put it above, probably just squeaking above Madara, just because it's, like, for me, it's just a bit faster and easier to play through, and easier to get to the table. So that's where I'd put it. I'd put it sort of maybe just above. I'd probably have Madara and Massive Darkness 2 around about the same point, and then I would put G.I. Joe Operation Cobra just above that. So that's my ranking, and so for what it's worth, hopefully that sort of means something to you, or it gives you a better insight, and sort of helps sort of piece together all the stuff I was saying about the game as well. And I just wanted to sort of touch on the campaign, and so this is my sort of review for the game as that base game, but I wanted to say that with the campaign coming along, because I think this is relevant, the campaign with all of its stretch goals and the expansions that are in there, it's the choices that they've made with which Joes and which Cobra characters that they've put into those expansions in particular, and that they've given us with the stretch goals, that really cement this as, like, I'm really looking forward to it. I love what I'm seeing with those choices of Joes, like the fact that they've picked like Beachhead and Gung Ho and Outback and Quick Kick. All of these guys are just like, if I was like making a wish list of, okay, which ones would I like to see in the stretch goals, bam, 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 they're all there. Destro, the Baroness, Storm Shadow, all these guys as the Cobra forces, they're all there. So they've really done a great job of capturing, I think, the essential Joes. And I don't think this is a campaign, as much as I was maybe sort of thinking originally, like, oh, this is going to be hundreds of Joes and that sort of thing, because, you know, there is a big roster of them out there. For the scope of this game and the scale of this campaign, and being a new company, I'm really happy with the amount of Joes we're getting. For a dungeon crawler, it feels like a lot of characters, and the ones that they've picked are absolutely the ones that I would want. There's no one on the list that I'm like, oh, well, we definitely need this guy or that. I know everyone's got their own little edge case favourites and things like that, but for me, they've really got all the important Joes there, currently, either in the expansions or the stretch goals. And I'm really loving what I'm seeing when they're showing those file cards for those characters. Having played the game and I'm reading those abilities, I can see what that's going to be like. I can imagine playing that. I know what that ability is going to feel like playing the game, and they really excite me. Especially Gung Ho, I really like the look of his abilities. It just looks like a lot of fun. And speaking of the expansions as well, all of those characters, all of those Joe characters that you get to add to your roster, all of those villains that are added, the variety of troopers that are sprinkled in through the retail expansions, and then the exclusive ones as well, where they give you sort of extra Cobra troopers, really, I think, does impact and make, you know, the variety side of things in terms of judging that for the campaign. You know, I had to sort of just judge it based on what was in the original game, but if I'm thinking about this campaign and what I'm backing, I'm not worried about variety at all. I think that's going to be amazing with all those characters. And on top of that, then you've got the Cobra campaign. I forget the name of it now, but it has that ability where you can use a whole bunch of the Cobra characters as heroes, essentially. You have a whole campaign where you can play through Cobra themed missions, and you have a whole series of cards and abilities, you know, stat cards for the Joe forces to be used as villains, essentially, and have their own AI decks and that sort of thing. So that's going to just, you know, absolutely exponentially, you know, make that variability, that variety, raise up quite a lot for this game system. So I just wanted to point out that I'm really excited about those aspects of the campaign, and how they impact on some of the scores and things that I was talking about, the pros and cons in my review. So that's another great thing about the campaign. Yeah, just wanted to sort of point that out, and that sort of leads me to I guess the final part of the review, where I'll say that, you know, for me personally, I love the game enough that, and I'm liking what I'm seeing in the campaign enough that I'm feeling confident to back it. You know, so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and back the game. But I don't want to, as this is just a review, I don't want to necessarily make a recommendation about backing it, but I just want to let you know that I'm backing it. But because it's, you know, a crowdfunding campaign, and the state of the world at the moment, and you know, cost of living around the world, and you know, the fact that it's a new company and, you know, untested and all that sort of stuff, I would rather urge everyone, you know, think about your circumstances, think about what you think of the game, and maybe, you know, what I've said sort of thing might help you, but you know, make the decision that's going to be right for you and your circumstances and your finances and that sort of thing as well. But I'm loving the game, and so I'll be backing it. So anyway, well, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I don't know whether this has turned out very well at all, but hopefully it was either useful or fun or both, and we'll be back with some more gameplay videos shortly down the track. I don't know if I'll get any more recap videos of the GameFound campaign out. Hopefully I'll get this video out in time, but in the meantime, I hope you guys have some happy gaming, have a nice time, and Meeple Monkey out. See you guys. Bye-bye.